If their blood didn't boil under the black suns of Nara, ours will make a fine substitute. The words echoed through the void, transmitted across light years in all directions, a grim promise from the captain of the human warship Vanguard. The crew, hardened men of steel and nerve, knew the weight of those words, though none flinched as they rang through the bulkheads. They had waited long for this moment, their chance to face the Draon, the scourge of the galaxy, and repay them for the atrocities they had committed. The Geronts were a race of conquerors, their reach spanning dozens of star systems, leaving nothing but ruin in their wake. They were creatures born of shadow and fire, their massive war fleets unstoppable, their technology beyond comprehension to most. Empires crumbled before them, entire species driven to extinction or slavery. They had once been myth, a terror whispered about in the darkness of space, until they descended upon the galaxy with a fury unmatched in recorded history. But humanity was different. Humans had heard the stories, had watched as the Draon consumed their neighbors, growing ever closer to Earth's sector. They were not blind to the impending doom. But where others had begged for mercy or sought to hide, humanity had prepared. The Earth's resources were pulled, minds from every corner of the planet working in unison. They knew there would be no negotiations, no surrender, and no salvation from the stars. Only one truth remained. Survival would be on humanity's terms alone. The Vanguard had been forged in the crucible of desperation, a ship unlike any other in human history. It was a behemoth built not just for war, but for the utter annihilation of anything that dared to threaten humanity. Armed with weapons that bent the fabric of space, shields that could withstand the heart of a star, and engines powered by the fury of 1,000 suns, it was humanity's answer to the Draon menace. And now it was humanity's spear, pointed directly at the heart of the Draon Empire. "Captain, we're approaching the outer defense grid," reported Lieutenant Harris, his voice steady, betraying none of the tension that gripped the crew. Captain Marcus Locke nodded, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen that displayed the cold expanse of space ahead. The Draon defense grid was legendary, a web of automated battle stations, mines, and patrol ships that had shredded countless invaders long before they even saw the Draon homeworld. But the Vanguard was no ordinary ship, and Locke was no ordinary captain. "Initiate cloak," Locke ordered, his voice as cold as the void around them. The Vanguard shimmered and vanished from sight, the advanced stealth technology enveloping the ship in an imperceptible bubble. To the Draon sensors there was nothing there, just empty space. But the humans knew better. They knew that the Draon relied on their superior technology, their arrogance blinding them to the possibility of a threat that could bypass their defenses. "We're in position," Harris reported. "Deploy the spikes," Locke commanded. The Vanguard's hull opened in several places, and from within, sleek black projectiles were launched, each one embedding itself in the floating battle stations and patrol ships. These were not weapons in the traditional sense, but rather infiltration devices. Once attached, they began to burrow through the Draon technology, hacking into systems, overriding controls, and turning the once deadly defense grid into a puppet of the Vanguard's will. "Spikes are active, Captain," said Harris. "We're in control of the grid." "Good," Locke said, a rare smile crossing his face. "Open fire." The Vanguard's weapons came to life, but not in the way the Draon would have expected. Instead of unleashing a barrage of missiles or energy blasts, the ship used the defense grid against itself. The battle stations turned on each other, firing at their allies. Patrol ships exploded in sudden, unprovoked attacks, and mines detonated in carefully calculated patterns, destroying the Draon defenses without a single shot fired from the Vanguard itself. The crew watched as the once impenetrable barrier crumbled before them, and yet none of them relaxed. They knew this was only the beginning. The Draon would not sit idly by as their defenses were dismantled. They would strike back, and when they did, they would do so with the full force of their war machine. "Captain, incoming transmission from the Draon command," said Harris. "Patch it through," Locke replied. The viewscreen flickered, and the visage of a Draon warlord filled the screen. The creature was imposing even by human standards, its body encased in dark, segmented armor that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. Its eyes burned with a cold fire, and its voice was a low growl that sent shivers down the spines of lesser men. "Humans," the warlord spat as if the word itself was poison, "you dare to defy the Draon Empire. You are nothing. Your pitiful world will burn, and your people will be enslaved. Their bones ground to dust beneath our feet." Locke's smile returned, colder than the void. "You've had your turn, Draon. Now it's ours." Before the warlord could respond, Locke gave the order. "Fire." The Vanguard unleashed its full arsenal, a symphony of destruction that reverberated through the blackness of space. Beams of energy tore through Draon ships. Missiles found their marks with pinpoint precision. and the very fabric of space rippled as the Vanguard's most powerful weapons came to life. The Draon war fleet, which had once seemed invincible, was being torn apart ship by a single human warship. The warlord's image flickered, then disappeared as his ship was obliterated by a blast from the Vanguard's main cannon. The crew watched in silence, knowing that this was only the first step in a much larger battle. They were deep in Draon territory now, and there would be no turning back. "Captain," said Harris, his voice breaking the silence, "enemy reinforcements are inbound. Their main fleet is on the way." "Good," Locke said, his eyes burning with the same cold fire that had filled the Draon warlords. "Let them come. We'll show them what it means to face humanity." The Vanguard turned its prow toward the heart of the Draon Empire, its engines flaring as it accelerated into the abyss. The crew braced themselves for what was to come, knowing that this was the moment they had trained for, the moment they had waited for their entire lives. As the stars streaked past them, Captain Locke gave the order that would seal the fate of the Draon. Full speed ahead, the Vanguard tore through the blackness of space, leaving behind a trail of destruction. The remnants of the Draon defense grid floated aimlessly, lifeless and adrift, as the ship powered toward its next target, the Draon homeworld. "Captain, we're detecting the Draon main fleet on an intercept course," Lieutenant Harris reported, his fingers dancing over the console. "They'll be within range in 10 minutes. Captain Marcus Locke glanced at the tactical display, his expression unreadable. The Draon fleet was massive, a true armada of death, battleships the size of small moons, carriers bristling with fighter craft, cruisers armed with weapons that could decimate planets. It was a force designed to crush any opposition, a force that had done so countless times across the galaxy. But this time they faced something different. "Deploy the drones," Locke ordered, his voice calm. The Vanguard's hull opened once more, this time releasing a swarm of autonomous drones. These weren't the typical combat drones used in past conflicts. They were experimental, built specifically for this mission. Each one was equipped with advanced AI, capable of learning and adapting in real time, and loaded with the most advanced weaponry humanity had ever developed. The drones shot forward, disappearing from view as they engaged their cloaking devices. They moved with purpose, spreading out in a wide formation to intercept the incoming Draon fleet. "We're in for a hell of a fight, Captain," said Commander Steele, the ship's second-in-command. He was a grizzled veteran, his face marked by the scars of countless battles. If anyone understood the stakes, it was Steele. Locke nodded, his gaze never leaving the tactical display. "Let them come. This is what we're here for." The minutes ticked by, each one feeling like an eternity. The crew remained silent, the tension palpable as they watched the blips on the screen draw closer. The Vanguard continued its relentless advance, showing no signs of hesitation. Finally, the Draon fleet came into view. It was a sight to behold, an ocean of ships, each one more menacing than the last. They moved in perfect unison, a testament to the cold efficiency of the Draon war machine. "All hands prepare for battle," Locke commanded, his voice echoing through the ship's corridors. The crew responded instantly, every man taking his position, ready to do whatever was necessary to secure victory. The first shots were fired by the Draon, a barrage of energy beams and missiles that lit up the darkness. The Vanguard's shields flared as they absorbed the initial impact. But Locke knew this was just the beginning. "Drones are engaging the enemy," Harris reported. The view screen split into multiple feeds, each one playing the perspective of a different drone. The eye-driven machines moved with deadly precision, weaving through the Draon formation, targeting key systems and wreaking havoc among the enemy ranks. Draon ships exploded in fiery blooms, their once cohesive formation breaking apart under the onslaught. But the Draon were not so easily defeated. For every ship the drones destroyed, 2 more took its place, their weapons turning on the tiny machines that infiltrated their lines. The drones fought valiantly, but their numbers were dwindling. Locke watched the display, his mind racing as he considered his options. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they still had the Vanguard. "Ready the cannon," Locke ordered.